Hey guys, Joe here doing yet another video, but hi! Hard surface this time, yeah. I am in my workroom now, cleaned off my work surface. You can see, boom, bada bing, bada bam, everything's set up. So I can work on my guns, I can make videos from here, I can do one takes, whatever I want. I will still use the couch, of course, for new gun reviews and whatnot. But today I thought I'd film one from the table. This one I picked up from my local pawn shop, Bears Trading Post, Winchester, Virginia. Can't link them, but just Google it, you'll find them. Not only do they do firearms, they have collectibles, guitars, they still have CDs, believe it or not. They do just about everything, and they're really good people, and they have really good prices, so check them out. This is one of my favorite guns from back in the day, and I've had a ton of them, and I got rid of them, and I wish I hadn't, and now I get the opportunity to have them back. This is the Smith & Wesson 5906. This is a very early release, as you can tell by the serial number, starting with TCR. We'll get into that in a second. Unfortunately, these have the worst thing in the world, and that is a magazine disconnect, but we'll show it clear. There you go. This is a double to single action 9mm double stacked firearm. And yeah, I marked my mags because I have so many mags. Sometimes I forget which ones are which. That will just come off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Don't worry, it's not permanently defaced. This is not a pre-band mag. As you can see, it is a full 14+1, so 15 rounds, and it is a all-steel gun. Smith & Wesson released this lineup in '88 to law enforcement, '89 to the civilian market. I'm pretty sure this was a police issue one. A couple of things lead me to that. The design of the trigger guard. This is typically a rounded trigger guard on the non-LE models. The undercut here is just really nice. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But also the serial number. TCR does not show up in standard serial number searches. It predates 1989, which is when the civilian market got this gun. So I'm pretty sure this is an '88 law enforcement release. So they probably gave it to a law enforcement agency to shoot and test for them. Has a slightly different finish on it because it had a lot of holster wear. You can see up here on top of the slide. I'm thinking about actually doing this whole tri-top up to there in this polish finish. But what I did was, this is where the really bad wear was on both sides, from in, out, in, out. So I took and polished it out, only back to the serrations. You can see nothing other than that has been polished. And I think it makes it a really nice and decent looking gun. Yeah. Finished in stainless on stainless. These were available with aluminum frames as well for a while. And man, this is a really nice gun. Has night sights on it, but the night sights are completely dead. So I took some high-vis paint, put it on the front sight, blacked out the rears because, again, it doesn't work. And now you have a really, really reasonable sight picture for fast acquisition. Has a bit of a beaver tail, not a large one, but a bit of one. And you can see it's scalloped out, so, you know, gets up nice and high. Bore axis is a little high for the gun, being what it is, but it's not terrible. Mag release is on the left side, as well as a slide lock slide release. The safety decocker is ambidextrous. It's the only feature on the gun that is ambidextrous. Comes down. There were models that you could just put it on safe, and this one you can kind of half it right there and defeats the trigger, so you can just flip it up, or you can just fully decock it and then flip it back up. It doesn't go back up to fire on its own, which is a downside, but it's okay. It's a double action only, so you can just flip it up and carry it that way. Starting in double action, you do have a heavier pull. Let's go ahead and talk about that. And again, clear, you have to have the magazine in it. I have not removed the magazine disconnect. I will at some point, just not yet. Has pretty decent trigger feel. Let's go ahead and start it in double action. So the double action pull is straight back. Who knows how many rounds this guy has through it, but it's got a pretty smooth trigger, so I think it's got quite a few. And the trigger pull is nice, comes all the way back. The single action pull is much shorter. You need a little bit of take up and brake. The brake is actually a little spongy on this one for the single action pull, not sure why, but you can see, so wall and then a little bit more, wall and then a little bit more, and then brakes. Very nice though. It's probably under 4 pounds. Reset is right there. Amazing reset on this thing. The slide serrations are only in the rear, but that was a 100% common thing back in the day. They didn't do anything up here from the factory unless you had some sort of race style gun. By the way, that polish job made it look so much cool, and it cleaned up the lettering so you can read it better. I like polishing out my guns. Makes them look good. It has a flat fit barrel. It's not crowned or anything, but it does look nice sitting in there. Looks like it has a little bit of extra material here. When it was available in 40 and 45, that was wallered out. Just kidding, not wallered out, but you know what I mean. They opened up the front there in order to get the larger barrels in it. Metal guide rod, which is nice to see. External extractor that is roll pinned in, which I don't care for. These grips are fine. They look like they were designed with Pachmayr. Their wraparound has a decent texture in the back. Not super grippy, but for its day, it was pretty good. And it has texture up there, which a lot of modern guns do not, which drives me crazy. Here in the front, it's got vertical serrations, yet it has cross hatching on the front of the trigger guard, so that makes no sense. Why would you only do vertical serrations there, yet cross hatch at about 15 lines per inch? That guy, huh? Very good though if you are a, wow, that actually hurt my hand because of the extreme reach. But if you are a grip it and rip it kind of guy, you run up really fast because you grab the front of your trigger guard, then you're good to go. Or if you're like PewView, who does a super high thing so you can get your finger up there and just lock that son of a bitch in there. Yeah, pretty good. The magazine release is only one-sided, pretty easy to hit. I think there are Performance Center mag releases that you can get that will allow you to drop that thing a lot easier. But yeah, the mags do drop free. I got 4 with this gun, which is pretty good. The downside to these guns is that since they're becoming older, they're becoming slightly pricier. When these things were Milsurp, they were like 250 bucks. Now they're up to about 500-ish for a good clean 5906. And I'd say this is a pretty clean one, even though I did modify it slightly. You want to take her apart? Okay, let's do that. In order to do that, you need to double check that the gun is clear. In order to do that, bring it to the back, lock it open, use your finger. Get all up in there. Get up in the guts with your finger. Oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, get up in there, make sure she's clear. Go ahead and drop it. You don't need to drop the hammer. Just bring this back until you are basically in the center there with the, you can see the top of the slide lock there. Now this gun is super tight, so I need to push out the pin using an assisted device. Give me a second. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're in there. Helps the channel, all that good stuff. There we go. So, like I said, it's very tight for me, but that's because I'm a weakling. But go ahead and take that out, and then you can just pull that off. The hammer will drop when you disassemble the gun. That is perfectly fine. Don't worry about that. Guide rod is not captive, but like I said, it is metal, has a very thick spring on it. I would definitely make sure to pay attention to which end the spring is on the guide rod. You can see it kind of flares. Now that could just be age, but you can see it's slightly wider at this end than it is on this end. So I'm going to go ahead and put the guide rod back in. That way I don't forget what it is in there. Go ahead and dropping this out. Go ahead and dropping this out. There we go. It's slightly different from the cam system on modern lockup actions. You can see instead of having a cam underneath that it locks into, it actually locks up on the side of the barrel down here, and it has a locking lug up here because it's a rounded off barrel. So it's kind of in between a Glock style and a 1911 style, which is perfectly fine since John Moses Browning designed both of those actions anyway. This does lead to pretty straight lockup. The barrel does not tilt nearly as much as it does in a 1911, and I guess if you had a threaded one, it would be pretty nice to shoot with a suppressor on it. Rifling's still pretty solid in there. It's hard to shoot out the rifling in a gun unless you're using the wrong kind of ammo, slightly oversized, etc. Looking at the finish inside the slide, very nice. One single giant lug for locking up, and then there's the entire mechanism for the decocker safety. Now the way the decocker safety works is it simply has a piece of metal that blocks the firing pin. When that's in place, you cannot even push it from the rear because it rotates and blocks the entire rear of the firing pin. Very nice. And that's part of the decocking mechanism, which is also why the hammer goes home when you drop the slide. These were available in both stainless and aluminum. This is the stainless, so it weighs as much as the slide. I prefer a heavier gun. In a 9mm double stack, weighing this much, and this one weighs nearly 36 ounces, this thing doesn't flip hardly at all. Has a You can see all the safeties in there. And this is going to be a pain in the ass when we put it back together because all these things have to drop down. But yeah, as you can see, yeah, back here you have all of that. And if you push it down with your hand, you can get it. Anyways, so there you go. Which is interesting. The magazine disconnect only works when the top is on the gun. How about that? You could always swap these out for commander style, performance style hammers, but I have no intention to. Overall, build quality is very nice. Not 100% sure on the round count. Like I said, I know it's got plenty of rounds through it because police officers, depending on the department you worked at or law enforcement, military, you were required to train a certain number of rounds per month, per year, etc. So it definitely has rounds through it because it's a nearly 35-year-old gun. Actually, it is a 35-year-old gun. 36 years old now. It's older than most of my audience, but it's in pretty good shape otherwise. Go ahead and set that down. Go ahead and put this back together. And back in the day, this was the way you got your high capacity guns because Glock had just been starting out. Glock was not the powerhouse that it's known as, thank God for a peg wall, as today. Back in the day, Glocks were not in the same amount of favor as they are today. Super, super small ledge to put that in, so make sure you hold all that together. And at the time, you had the Beretta M9 series. 1911s weren't really on the radar because obviously 1911s were single stack still. They hadn't really done a double stack outside of competition. I love this thing. It's so finicky and tight, I might have to do this off camera. But basically, you have to get all the safeties down in order to get the slide to come back all the way onto the gun. So give me a second. You don't need to see me struggling with that. There we go. Like I said, I do apologize. I did it off camera because it's really annoying to get all three of those safeties down. You are going to see that when you do that, it's going to cock the hammer because you have to get it back there. You got to bring it all the way back to the same disassembly point. You'll see the notch right there lines up with the room. So you got to get that in there. And you got to just shove it right in there. You can see it'll go in very easily, but coming out is pain in the bootski. Go ahead and put your mag back in because this has the devil's safety in it, and make sure the gun works. So let me show you an alternative from the day. This gun, actually, the models that it's based on came out before it. This is a CZ75, also chambered in 9mm. Just show you, she's clear. It's also a double action, single action decocker, double stack, 15+1. It says 14, but these hold 15. So this was a very similar sized alternative to the gun, slightly shorter barrel, but oversized. Overall, the size is exactly the same. And if you wanted one, you could get a CZ75 compact and carry that. Modern day guns, this is a Taurus G3 Tactical. It basically imitates a Glock 17, so you get a 17 round capacity. Weighs a lot less, yet the package is about the same. This one's all done up with weird stuff. I put an optic and a light and all that stuff on there because I'm the Joe and I do what I want. But yeah, this is like the modern gun, but this guy is the OG. This started the whole thing. This was it, fam. If you own one of these, let me know. I'm picking up a second one here. I think it's a 6906 or a 3906. I'll make a video on that as well. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like it, all that good stuff. Come back for the live streams Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, starting at 7 and going until whenever. We have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of stuff, and you get to see how I organize the wall each time. I think that's about it for today. So, like I said, come back for that one. I love you all, and I'll talk to you later.